be talking a little bit about managing turf and landscape. So we're going to look at some of the different herbicides that we can use within the turf settings and then also within the landscape settings like the mulch beds or the driveways, and just kind of go through some of the different modes of action and different ways that we can control weeds and have a nice looking lawn and a landscape near our house. So first off, I was just going to kind of mention there's a publication out there, extension publication, called Managing Turf and Landscape Weeds, and it's available online if you go to extensionpubs.unl.edu and you search this one, which is EC1269. So if you pop that up, it has a good overview of weeds in the landscape and lawn, and it also kind of describes, how they grow, when they grow, and what we can do to control them, how to control them, if they're perennials, annuals. So there's a lot of good information in there with a lot of good pictures as well. So with that, recommending some herbicides for the lawns, we're looking at two different times of the year. So we're looking at early season, we're going to try and do a pre-emergent herbicide, and then later or at that same time we're going to look at post-emergent herbicides for a lot of the broadleaf weeds. And then we get later into the spring, summer, maybe post-emergent for a lot of the grassy weeds. So a lot of the pre-emergent herbicides that are available have been available for a long time, and there's three main ones, which is pendimethalin, prodiamine, and dithiopyr. So those three products are pretty much in most of the products that we buy called, crabgrass preventer or products like that. And there's a bunch of different kinds that we have. So pre-emergents for lawns, you're looking at something with dithiopyr, pendimethalin, or prodiamine. Some may have isoxaben in it, which is another added broadleaf pre-emergent herbicide, but most do not contain that. There's also, if you're doing any types of seedings, there'd be one product to go with, which would be mesotrione, and that one is available. Scott's makes it as a granular form. So if you're doing any type of seeding, that would be one that you could use, and it's not going to damage the seedlings like those other three that I mentioned would do, and it would prevent those seedlings from maturing. So another thing to look at when you're picking these herbicides is how much fertilizer is in them. If you have a lush lawn and you fertilized last fall, try and stay away from a heavy fertilizer with the pre-emergent and maybe just go with a product, a single active and no fertilizer, just containing one of those three pre-emergents that I talked about earlier. So another thing that we can look at is finding some of those products that work during the season, throughout the season to target maybe specific weeds. A lot of them do contain multiple modes of action. So I have a couple different products here. One of them would be like Roundup for Lawns, Scott's Weed and Feed. And these do contain usually multiple modes of action. So you're going to control broadleaves. A lot of them have like sulfentrazone in them, and that one is usually targeted at yellow nutsedge. So you can buy that as a standalone product or a product that is a combination with 3 or 4 other ones, and that's where they label nutsedge control on it. Another one would be quinclorac, and that's going to be for your grassy weeds that have come up already, like crabgrass or foxtail. If you get them when they're young, one of those 3-4-way products work really well at controlling grasses while also controlling a lot of the broadleaf weeds. And they do come in many different types of application method. Some of them are ready to use. You hook up with the hose, and you're basically going over the whole lawn and covering it with the recommended square feet that's on the label. Others have a nice spray wand on them where you're just going to target specific weeds or specific areas, and those I like because they're easy to use and you're able to target that spray and get it controlled where you want it. So some of the other ones would be single actives, so you have like ones that are specifically for crabgrass or specifically for yellow nutsedge, and those would contain a single AI such as sulfentrazone or triclopyr, where we're trying to control some of those tougher to control ground ivies or wild violets. So there's a broad array of different modes of action out there, but just remember some of those actives that we're trying to target specific weeds with, and look at the labels when you're in the stores, and you can kind of choose through some of those that have maybe 3 or 4 of those, and you're only going to need one product throughout the year to control some of those escaped weeds in your lawn.